Doggy Stoic community. This episode is with a guest named Panos out of Sydney, Australia. And look, Australia has some of the strictest rules on what tools trainers can and can't use. Some places you could use a prong collar, others you can't. Some places you can't use an e-collar and others you can. But Panos went right out of high school into training shelter dogs, severe behavior cases, dogs that would bite, have reactivity, and have been given up because of aggression and other huge issues, and he rehabilitated them. He stayed there for several years until his results spoke for themselves. And for the last 12 years, he's been working for himself, training one-on-one and group classes. And be sure to stay till the end for a remarkable story about Panos.
I'm not going to bore you with a very long introduction here. I'm just going to put it to you this way. The gentleman sitting across from me, experienced trainer, coming all the way from Australia, got the best name in the game. And I'm going to try to pronounce it. He's going to fix it for me. And then we're going to get into 60 to 90 minutes of value. You're going to get to understand Panos' journey, kind of how his philosophy may have shifted, a little bit about his book, Nooch's Pooches. I want to learn a little more about that. And then everything that you trainers building a business might be able to take one or two things from just the business side. So Panos Anagnostou.
Yes, sir. Good
no,
work.
Seriously, give me a score. How did I do?
You did pretty good. Maybe 9 out of 10.
No, okay. Welcome to the show. I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thanks for having me.
Is it a Greek? It's a Greek name, right?
Yes, sir.
When Greece won Euros in I think it was 2006 or 2008, were you going nuts? Were you celebrating?
Yeah, down in Sydney, Brighton is where all the Greeks congregate, and the whole street was blocked out, massive screens, and the place went wild.
How did are you an immigrant? How did your family find themselves there?
Oh, my mum was born in Cyprus, and my dad was born here, but his parents were from Greece.
Okay,
so
awesome.
I'm a true blue Aussie, mate.
Okay. I'm an immigrant, so I'm originally from Ukraine, so first generation immigrant to America. So I always have like a special feeling or kindred spirit with immigrants. But I want to kick things off and just ask you, what made you want to write the book, Nooch's Pooches? What was the deal? Why did you decide to put your thoughts, your ideas, your philosophies down on paper?
So for many years, actually, basically since I started my own business about 14 years ago, I started off giving people homework, and I thought this is really laborious. After a session at nighttime, I'm writing homework for specific dogs. So I thought, let me put something together that was a little bit more general, just so people had something to reference between sessions, give them a little bit of extra value, etc. So I made a training manual, probably about 30 pages, and I updated that and fixed that up over the years. And then it was around lockdown time. So maybe it was around about like 2019. I thought, or just before like the COVID thing happened, I was like, all right, I'm going to read the training manual that I've been giving people for ages, and I haven't read it in a couple of years. And I'm like, there could be a lot more info that I could be giving my people. So I started jotting things down, trying to get a little bit more content within each topic. And then it was lockdown, so I had a little bit more time. So I started actually kind of getting this thing together. Then I started forming chapters, and chapters were like, this book was becoming a book. And I thought, I'll still give this to my clients, but this is something that I could definitely get published and put it out there. So if I could be of assistance to anybody and of service to the industry as well, to put down my thoughts and techniques and ideas about training, and it essentially became a book. So it took me about 3 years to like properly get it together, get it edited. And then I went through the whole publishing process. I self-published that on Amazon, and my clients get it now. It's as a PDF file, so they can read that in between sessions. And you can tell the really keen clients, the ones that are like, look, I know we didn't practice this technique, but I've been reading that. I've been doing this. I'm like, this is amazing. And other people, some people don't want to read a 300-page book. I get it, but it's not meant to be like, you should definitely read it from the beginning to the end, but it is basically a training manual. So if you are familiar with the training, and of course, if you've done training with the trainer, and then you can go, oh, I really need to work on that barking issue. Or what was it again when I have to, I got this little young dog in my house. What's that management strategies that Panos? So it could be used as a reference. and if people do get the book, get the paperback book, so you can put post-it notes to be like, hey, this area goes to this. I'm working on proofing my recall, so I just want to go back and just refresh things. So it's meant to be a guide, as well as it could also be something that you could pick up, read it from beginning to end, and it's in sequential order, so that somebody who's fresh can actually start training their dog. So it was a bit of an evolution. It wasn't like I'm going to write a book, but it just happened to become that, wow, now I'm an author. This is crazy. So yeah, I thought, and then on the other level, I wanted, our industry can be jaded with so much random conflicting information. So as a duty to the industry, if I could put something together myself, and this, could represent a lot of us as trainers, to be like, hey, look, I know you can watch 1-minute clips here and there, and you can watch a video course, but, having a book, does provide a bit of authority, and also it could represent, a balanced type of training. So, I thought if I was to keel over and die tomorrow, then at least I've left something behind that can be tangible for the world.
Can I ask you, if you take it back, right? So I think any trainer, regardless if they're force-free, balanced, whatever, wherever they fall, I think most would say getting dog owners to do the homework, right? Whatever that homework looks like is a big challenge. Before and after you wrote this book, right? And what it sounds like to me is like kind of a guide, right? Like you could open any page and say, go through the glossary and say, I'm dealing with X issue, and just go to that chapter. How did specifically your clients respond? Were they like, Panos, this is awesome, man, thank you for putting this guide together? Or were they like, we still want to learn directly from you?
Hold on. There you go. I think my microphone had a little bit of a glitch there. So,
you're
good
in
question.
Australia, man. You're going to have third world internet for sure.
Yeah, no, we don't do too bad actually, but in the morning it can be a little bit dodgy. And also my voice is a little bit more conditioned for the day, and normally I record in the evening. So if I do sound a little bit groggy, I had like a hay fever.
If I didn't know you would be like a late night talk show radio host. You have that voice. You have that voice, like the storytelling. I'm about to go to, it's nighttime, kind of like I'm about to go to bed, like that low, put you to sleep voice, and I'd say that as a compliment. Please, for people listening, don't get mad at me. It's a compliment.
I do appreciate it, man. Thank you. So look, I think a lot of people are impressed. They're like, oh, like you publish a book? What? Wow, this is amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely, go through that. Some people, the best feeling is when I go to a house and someone has already ordered their book and the book's on the table and you can see that it's like creased a little bit. It's been used. And I'm like, that is cool. I love to take a photo of that and share that, because that does show, it shows commitment. It also shows, of course, some support and the fact that if I can give somebody, if you're going to train with me hands-on, then I've given you access to the podcast. You can read the book, you can watch my videos. So, and it's not only so that I can keep the clients for myself, but it's mainly, look, you can approach training in this way, then at least get it from the same source so that you're not just trying all this random stuff. Of course, go off and learn from other trainers and implement some things. I could learn a few things as well that way, but most people aren't wanting to be professionals in dog training. They just want to fix their problem and understand how to communicate with their dog better. So having all of that advice there at their fingertips at least gives them the resources if they choose to use it. And to be honest, like I also do an introductory video, for example, so it goes for just over an hour before I go out to people's houses. They watch it, they learn some stuff, and they implement it. And if you haven't watched the hour and 10-minute video because it was too long, like then judging without judging, it's like, all right, I know where we're at here. That's cool. It is what it is. It would be preferable if you watched the video and did some of the homework, or make our session go easier, but also kind of shows your commitment level. Do you want someone to come and just fix your problems, or do you want to actually learn? So some people are really impressed by it. Other people are like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll have a look at it. That's awesome. So, I try not to get, people give me some mad compliments for it because I guess it is a big feat, but I try not to get a big head over it. It's there. You can utilize it. You don't have to utilize it. Completely sweet. But out of all of it, just like I've got a bookshelf full of books and I haven't read all of them to their entirety, but having access to a book or having the book in your hand, I think I don't know what it is like for like, the new generation, but for the old generation, having a book, just gives you a good feel as well, especially if you do want to just open it up and have a read through a random chapter. Yeah, I'm gonna learn a little bit about, one of the chapters is about obedience training. So you may not have gone through all of the other things like, house manners and general manners and, understanding specific techniques, but you can use it as a pick me up. I utilize it. And I think people have been using it that way, which is exactly the intent. I want it to be a resource between sessions and even after we finished for you to read back and gone, exactly, I forgot he said that. Let's work on that. So it's more like for the clients, it's more of a let me jog your memory, remember that, rather than, and then for the new people that don't know me, now they're utilizing that as their foundation to training, and they can go off to learn more specific things. At least they've got a good rock to build from.
I got into dog training at like kind of an interesting period in my life where I got a dog. We just started kind of going hiking, doing off leash adventure stuff, just kind of like a friend was what I was looking for. Tell us about your your origin story. Why did you get into it? Are you just a natural? You grew up with dogs. You love dogs. I love doing this. Was there a period in your life you were working on something else and it just kind of brought you to dog training?
Yeah. So I didn't grow up with dogs. I always wanted a dog when I was young. I always had pets. I always had some sort of fish or a turtle and, hermit crabs to axolotls to, insects and stuff. So
tell us some names. What were some names of your fish?
Fish I didn't name, but my turtle was Frankie, and I had another little turtle called Lotus. I had a little hermit crab. I called him Wilson. What else? I had a cricket, my first pet. I was like, this memory only came to me last week, but I was probably like 5 or 6, and I had this cricket, and he was real little, and he grew up big, and I called him Jiminy the Cricket, obviously. So we had a cat as well.
Pinocchio, guys, a classic. The original Pinocchio. Go back and watch it. That's a classic. It started the whole Disney thing.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a cat growing up. His name was Zach, and so we always had animals around us, but I was hassling my parents for a dog, so I went to the shelter and I remember we took this husky out. I was probably only like 16, and this dog was wild, jumping all over us, just typical husky behavior. And we have no idea. I'm like, I want a dog because he looks like a bit of a wolf. That would be cool. Yep. The classic mindset of how do you choose a dog? Well, we choose him for the way he looks rather than anything else. So that happened. We took the dog for a walk. Luckily, he was wild and all out of control. We're like, maybe we're not really ready for this. So we waited, and I was still at school. Just before I finished school, I was attacked and I was stabbed, and that was a pretty dark time. Just like 3 weeks out of finishing high school. So it's that transition of life. Going into adulthood. There was a little bit of darkness, a little bit of drama in my mind, and it was enough to affect me, but not enough to debilitate me. And anyway, so I worked a 7-day week, saved up enough money so I could go overseas with my mate for in Australia we do schoolies, or a lot of people go to Queensland and they just go wild, where we saved the money. My parents helped me out and they sent me off to Europe for 45 days. So I did a Kentucky tour. Anyway, so while I was there, my parents had messaged and called, and they're like, oh, by the way, we got a dog, little Kelpie. And I'm like, oh, they're like, yeah, we got a dog for you, whatever. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is cool. And I'm not really thinking about it while I'm having the time of my life,
right.
But I know in the back of my mind that there's a dog there anyway. So didn't really think much of it, really. I'm coming home, transitioning from, after a big holiday, first time away from your family, you're like, oh, coming back home, what's going on? This is weird. And as soon as I walked into the house, this dog just jumps up on me and says at me, and just like looks at my soul. I'm like, wow, you're awesome. And Rocky was his name. Anyway, so he was about 1.5 years old when he was diagnosed with leukemia, and him passing away was like the worst. I was more flattened out, more depressed than when I even thought I was going to die. So this dog changed my life in so many ways, got me active and, just shifted my perspective a lot, like, having to look after something else. And look, I've always been used to looking after something, but nothing's as reliant on you than a dog is. A turtle, you feed him, you let him be, you watch the fish, you clean their tanks. They're not like the turtle was actually excited to see me, but and the cat excited to see you. But obviously, it's different when a dog's like, yo, you're home. Yeah. So, that dog would hang out with me and the boys. Would always, even when he was sick and I was at work, and even my mates would be like, hey, we'll go around and take Rocky out. So he was really loved by the community. And when he passed away, like it was devastating. So about a month after that, I went to the shelter and I got another dog. His name was Ace. He was a Kelpie Lab, a black dog. Awesome dog, cool little puppy. I still worked. I was a groundsman at Randwick Racecourse, just like looking after the horse track there. And I was studying building at the time. But when I had this dog for maybe about a year, and I thought, I really wanted to work with animals. I made this decision in my mind that originally it was, let me work with captive animals. I want to work at the zoo and work with lions and tigers and bears, So I thought, you know what, I'm going to quit TAFE and quit my job and just volunteer at the local animal shelter. And I just thought, I live at home. I got no overhead. So let's just give this a go. It took a bit of courage to like mention that to my parents. Like, oh, by the way, I'm just going to like quit everything and I don't know, work with animals. But they were pretty supportive of it, and they weren't sure in which direction I was going to go. And they're like, you just find what you got to do. You're 20 years old. You know what I mean? Like, what can you lose? So, and anyone in their 20s listening, you can start over 3 or 4 times all the way up until you're 28. It doesn't matter. But I think it's important to find what you are passionate about. Because I would have been good at building, but I don't regret, working with animals. Anyway, so I was at the animal shelter. I was volunteering, and the manager's like, hey, do you want to work Sunday? Like, we need someone to work. I'm like, yeah, for sure. So one day became 3 days, became full-time work. And I was helping like managing the shelter, animal attendants, so just doing all the general husbandry stuff, looking after the dogs. And I remember, prior to that, when I don't know if it was with Ace or with Rocky, but someone's like, oh, you got away with dogs. You should be a dog trainer. And I remember that random lady saying that to me. That made no sense in my brain. I'm like, a dog trainer, do they exist? I don't even know what a dog trainer is, So I was like, oh, cool. I took it as a compliment. I'm like, thanks. And I was getting similar comments when I was working at the shelter. And I did inquire about, do I go into like animal science and, go into uni, or how do I get into captive animals? So I was studying at TAFE, like animal studies. So like basic animal stuff, but it was really hard to get into anything captive without me having to move out of Sydney. And I wasn't really keen on that. So while I was at the shelter, someone told me to take my dog to agility training. So I took him to agility training. That was my first ever dog training experience. And the lady there, because I was looking at different places and I was looking at like the force-free options, which I didn't know force-free or balance. Like there was no, like I had no understanding of this terminologies, but the lady there, she's like, no. You got to definitely check out like, the National Dog Trainers Federation. It's a certificate 3 in dog behavior and training, blah, blah. And, she knew people that were running it. And I was like, all right, cool. Like I'll go with a referral rather than like, just Google searching. So I ended up doing the course. And in that time, it was really interesting because I worked at the shelter for a couple of years, about a year and a half before doing the course, and doing the course really solidified a lot of things. Oh yeah, I do that. I see how that applies here. And so I was really learning a lot because I had a lot of experience under my belt, handling all these, random dogs. You get experience, especially if you.
What comes to mind? What were some things you were doing that were covered in the course?
I think like leash pressure, negative reinforcement. How do you reward, like when rewarding a dog, or even when it came to like an extinction burst, like, when they were giving examples, I was like, oh yeah, that's what you would call that, like spatial pressure, or, waiting for a duration to release a dog. I was always releasing a dog out of a sit. I'm like, hey man, I didn't tell you to get up out of your sit. Like it was very natural to me. If you're going to tell a dog to sit, you wait until I tell you to get up. For me, that's basic common sense. And at 20 years old, without anyone telling me that's what you should do, I'm like, we don't just run out the kennel, dude. You wait until I tell you to come out. And then learning about duration in behaviors and release commands. And, so I was.
Did you get any pushback for teaching these behaviors at the shelter with pressure or anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. When I first started, I was working with Tiffany. She was the manager, but then there was a time where, politics get in the way, and then she ended up like not working there after so long. So there was like no manager there for like 7 months. And that was like me because I was there every day. So then they hired a official new manager, which anyway, I won't get too emotional about that. But she was pretty sly and sneaky, to be honest. And anyway, so then after a couple of months of her just watching me just being normal and just how I am, she's like, I actually disagree with like everything you do and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. Like, I'm like, well, we're having this conversation now. I'm like, first of all, you're a bit of a snake. You've been watching me for like 5 months. And now you tell me how you disagree with all of that. And anyway, then there was a bit of a rift there because when I was at the shelter, I didn't focus so much on like luring and markers and training, even though I did do it. I focused more on let's socialize these dogs and give them enrichment, and let's teach them some basic manners so that when somebody comes to see them, they look decent, so someone takes them. And also, a lot of dogs got some intense reactivity to other dogs, so we need to address that. And also, if I'm going to take you for a walk, we're walking, and you're going to walk on a loose leash, and etc. So, and I typically use like slip leads in the place, and then I use like martingales when I went for walks. So I wasn't using anything too crazy. But and I would also the new cattery was built, so there was a big area that was just left open for like whatever. So I used that old cattery as a dog socialization space. 4 or 5 dogs, all previously reactive to other dogs, would play and hang out and give themselves enrichment for the whole time that they were there. So instead of giving Kongs and other rubbish, maybe just get dogs to play for 5 hours. That gets them tired really quick and gives them good experience.
And you knew you already had control over them because you've established, hey, like spatial pressure, leash pressure. Panos, they respected you. They were like, hey, when he asked me to do something, it's always in my best interest, but I should comply. So you knew when you put them into that area, they're going to listen. And no amount of reward could have done that.
No, definitely not. There was like, in fact, when I'm doing socialization like that, food is not used. There's no food on me.
Exactly.
It's all very social boundaries.
And she comes in, she's like, I'm watching you and I want you to do it this way.
Well, she was watching it going like, I just don't agree, but like, and I think it's just really there. Like, and she was just she was so sweet, but like,
and you're saying, hey, like, look at the results. The dogs are well behaved, well mannered, socialized.
Well, I didn't have to, so yeah, I would say all that and like try to defend myself and be like, I don't understand what the problem is. Like, the dogs are happy to see me. The dogs are all happy. No one's upset. Everyone's in a better position than they were. So she knew that. And I remember one day when those dogs were in that cattery, I was going to go out to lunch. She goes, oh, Panos, by the way, just before you go out to lunch, because I had 2 dogs that I mainly used. They were the long term at the time, Summer and Joker, were the dogs' names. And so they're the ones that were the most intense, and most people didn't want them, but they were the ones that learned how to socialize with the other dogs. So anyway, so I'd have those 2 dogs and another 2. And she goes, oh yeah, can you put them away? I'm like, oh, that'll be fine. I'm only gonna be half an hour. And she goes, yeah, but like you got to put them in their kennel. And I'm like, why? Like, they're fine. And they said, yeah, they're fine when you're here, but not when you're not here. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can put them away if I'm the only one that can control them. And then she's like, oh shit. You know that in that meme, like, Dave Chappelle, gotcha, bitch. There was that moment of going, well, yeah, sure. If you can't control the dogs and they're not happy when I'm not here, I can put them away. And she's like, oh, that just shows like, that's just evidence enough to say that everything's cool when I'm here, but you don't like what I do, but it's not cool when I'm not here. So sure. And she's smart enough to put those two together. But when you've bought into the propaganda of anything and you're convinced of an ideology, there's no evidence that can change an emotional state except for personal experience. And if you're willing and open. So she wasn't willing and open, whatever, but that trickled down through.
Is it fair to also say, Panos, that you were like 22, 23 and like, how we are, 22, 23, bit confident. We could call it cocky. Who knows the difference? The internet will tell us what the difference between those two is. And you're like, man, I got this. I got this on fleek. And was a little bit of that at play?
100%. Yeah, totally. It was, and it wasn't like I know everything, but it was like, well, it's working. What are you talking about? Like, and I was I grew up, like, I went to an all boys school. All of my workplaces before that place was male dominant. So my style of talking and the way that I just approach things, it was very masculine. It wasn't going to be like, listen, I understand how you feel. Let me, like, I developed that in my 20s,
Sure.
on the job, especially working in these environments where I had to deal with girls and females, and I had to, like, not just be so abrasive and be a little bit more understanding and compassionate. And also the dogs taught me that as well. So, and I'm sure I probably wasn't even doing everything perfect. And maybe some things were not nice to see potentially, because if you don't understand what I'm doing with the outcome in mind, you may be confused about why do you have to put so much pressure on that dog's leash when he jumps. Just don't put him with the other dog. I'm like, no, he's gonna learn. He'll be fine. Hey, relax, it's all good. So, but also management didn't like it. There was one dog that I was working with, a little black poodle, and some intense resource guarding, but nothing crazy. We were getting better. 2 weeks of working when the dog came in, he was really getting the understanding. But because I'd use, and again, my punishment was not even that crazy. There was some leash corrections, and there was using a Kevlar glove so that if he bit me, he didn't hurt me. And I was just going through the process. And I'll do it we're better now, but we're doing good. And then I came back after a day off, and I'm like, oh, where's, Jacko or whatever? And they're like, oh yeah, we had to put him down. I'm like, what the
They
fuck
put
do
him
you mean?
down?
I'm like, you killed him? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, why? And they're like, we see like your techniques like probably weren't going to work maybe, but also it doesn't look very nice the way that you punish him. So you kill him? Like, what do you mean? Like, that's so contradictory to what you're saying. I'm like, the dog would have lived, bro. What are you talking about? So
Can you walk us through what your protocol was for resource guarding? Like, how did you work with? That's crazy. A black.
Well, first of all, this is like a little toy poodle, so he was real little, and again, I would address it differently now than I would have then. But again, we're working in a shelter environment,
sure,
where it's different to being at home. So food guarding, I kind of left be. I wasn't messing with his food, but he would like grab a toy and then wouldn't let me grab the toy, or I'd be sitting next to him and he would get something that was like on the ground, like a bit of blanket, and then I couldn't get near him. So he was just very unwarranted sort of resource guarding. It was, and things like that are pretty easy to fix. Food guarding, I wouldn't try to fix in the shelter. I would try to fix that at the home, So it wasn't like I was harassing him for the nutrition that he needs, but it was like, hey man, when I'm playing ball with you, you can't just like grab the ball and try to bite me. So I'm going to pop the leash, tell him no, grab the ball, tell him to sit and throw the ball. He'll go back, I'll say, he'll stop it. Like you'd you'd leave the ball because you knew you didn't want to get corrected. I'd grab it. So my timing was really good. And that's one thing that I learned doing dog training was I naturally had good timing. My words always came before actions. So Pavlovian conditioning was already happening. Operant conditioning was taking place. So I didn't approach this with any scientific or any theoretical knowledge. It was just very innate. But correcting a dog in any capacity doesn't look good, especially when he's little and black, like little tiny cute thing. So, and would I have done something done it differently if it was a bigger dog? Potentially. But again, I'd do things heaps different. I'd back tie a dog now and, have good solid markers and teach her leave it. And, I'd be a lot more clearer with it all. But I think whatever I was doing was heaps better than killing him. So, there was a bit of a riff. And then of course, when I went off, I left the shelter a little bit, went to do a couple of boarding. So after I did my course, they offered me a job at the dog kennels, the training facility. So I worked there for a little bit. It was a bit far from home. It was draining me. So I went back to the shelter. I had my own cards and I started my business. And I thought I'll work here part-time, 3 days a week. I'd palm off some cards of dogs that were getting adopted. And then I would work a little bit in the days that I was to try to build up the business. I worked at another place at a doggy daycare. I had like 3 jobs at the same time. I was working 7 days a week. And then I knew I had to leave the shelter to open myself up to start, continue on the business. And I was reluctant. I was probably scared too. And then when I decided, look, I'll go to casual. So in Australia, if you're part-time, you can't just, you have to have like 2 weeks notice of, and there's more policies involved with letting someone go, I guess. But when you're casual, they say, oh, I just don't need you tomorrow. And that's fine. So I went to casual so I could be a bit more flexible. And then they ended up just stopped giving me shifts. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then there was a bit of a fallout and we all argued away. But then the next day, my phone started going crazy. And I'm like, oh, wow. It was almost like the universe was like, look, you were being stubborn. You had to leave that place to leave room for the energy of new work to come, for a new life to start. And you're holding on because you're scared. And this happened. And then it allowed for some new things to come in. So it all worked out the way that it should have. I had great experience working there. I don't regret anything. Actually, in fact, it prepared me for everything else to come as well. So like the hands-on experience, dealing with people, also understanding that, our industry is at war and you need to play the long game of, look, let me just show results. Like, you can't say to me that the techniques that I apply don't work, or you can't say Panos a dog trainer because he has a podcast and he has a book. It's like, those are the outcomes of the training, the work. I've, in the last 14 years, I've had like 3,000 clients. We've been working like full time since 2012. So I've got the reps in and I've got the social proof as well. So if anyone wants to argue about techniques, I'm down. Let's get on the podcast.
So let me
let's meet up in a
pause,
park.
Let me pause you. So you're 35,
36.
36. Me too. I knew we'd be buddies from
We're
across the
buddies.
pond. We're mates. We're mates.
Exactly.
And you live in Sydney.
Yes, sir.
You didn't want to leave Sydney. So you said the industry is at war. Explain what you mean by that. And do you believe that's in Australia, or are you talking about it completely globally as well?
Oh, definitely globally. And I don't think we're like, and when I say at war, it's one of those ideological wars, just like we're facing in all fronts of all topics of everything. And I won't get into all of that, but let's just say that we're trying to be so progressive that it's stopping us from progressing. And, there's 3 camps, general camps, and we all fall on a spectrum within all of that. But there's the old school yank and crank training, where we weren't using reinforcement, like positive reinforcement. We were just using a lot of leash pressure and corrections, and we're just like suppressing dogs' behavior. And, that just is what it is. And then we have the force-free community, which, we don't say no to a dog. We only feed good behaviors, ignore the bad behaviors, and, heavily medicate the dog and ignore everything. And, when things get too tough, maybe we just put the dog down, or the dog just stays in the backyard and turns food into shit. And then we have the balance trainers right in the middle going, well, let me use leash pressure. Let me use leash punishment. Let me use spatial pressure. Let me use positive reinforcement, shaping and luring. Let's use all of it and just help the dog understand what it is that we want. Teach the client what is that they need to do to provide for the dog, mental, physical stimulation, and enrichment and everything. So we combine, in my opinion, balance training is combining all of what we've learned and not going too extreme on one end to the other. I think one extreme came because we were too extreme on the other side. We were smacking kids with sticks and throwing dusters at them. And now at school, we don't say no to them. And same thing with dog training. And maybe, hopefully, as a society, and now we're a kind of a global society, we're a global culture, whether that's good or bad. But, we're communicating right now across the seas to put this out there to the world. So we are a global community, and the trends are happening on social media and everywhere else, where we think that, well, they, us, we, like, I don't really like to, pit me against them because everyone thinks so differently. Maybe I could be more positive reinforcement in a certain session, depending on the dog, than it is with some other dogs where, we may require a different approach. There's no cookie cutter system. We have to understand the fundamentals and apply them when it's necessary. Where we're at war because there's certain people that say, no, they're doing the wrong thing. They're animal abusers. They're doing blah, blah, blah. And the problem with that is that, first of all, it's very appealing to listen to. If I didn't know anything about dog training and then someone said, we can do all of this with not even saying no to your dog, you're like, show me the magic. What are you talking about? This is awesome. And then you have other people saying, no, we don't live in fairyland, and we need to be very realistic about our approach. And me saying over the phone, yeah, we're just going to punish your dog's behavior. Like, that sounds cruel and crazy. What are you talking about? So we've messed with words. Punishment has become a tainted word. We think punishment is abuse, where punishment is just weakening behaviors and their likelihood and frequency. So and then abuse is being nasty and mean and scary and suppressing dogs because you just don't like the dog. And there's a big difference. We want to deal with behaviors, not dealing with the individual dog when it comes to modifying these behaviors. So it's very nuanced. It could be very complicated, but if we deal with this only emotionally, then we're screwed. If we deal with training only logically, then we're kind of screwed. But if we can be logical and emotional and kind of mix them together and be of service to the dog and guide them appropriately, then we do the right thing. So we all very passionate about the way that we train. We all love dogs, but there's certain camps that would say that I, and maybe yourself, are doing the wrong thing by the dog, as if I wake up in the morning, I want to hurt dogs in people's houses in front of their owners. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I want dog, like, look at my dog. He's off the leash, experiencing a lot of freedom. He has a lot of clarity. He has the best experiences, and he knows not to mess around. So, like, it's hard, and I know I'm kind of bouncing around, but we're at war because we all want the right thing for the dog. The general public don't know any better, and we're here to try to educate them. And then the trickle effects are they ban our tools. Like we're not allowed to use an e-collar in New South Wales. We're allowed to use a prong collar currently, but they'll probably ban that soon. They'll probably ban the slip lead. They'll ban the martingale collar. In my opinion, and maybe and being like a conspiratorial moment, is that I reckon by 2050 they say, you know what? We've banned all the tools, so you can't control the dogs. So now all the big dogs, all the powerful breeds, all the hunting breeds, the terriers and everything, the working dogs, they're on harnesses. They're causing way more problems than we can deal with. We have to start banning certain breeds. And I think by 2050, why does the general public need hunting working dogs? You can have a little fluffy, cute dog. They're still nice, but nothing over 20 kilos because it's a danger to society because you guys can't control it. So I think we're at war because the end goal is that we're going to be stripped away from things that are currently normal to have. If I want a Rottweiler, I can buy a Rottweiler today and have one. But and I think we do need some regulation, education, and reform in certain ways because certain people shouldn't own a dog. But then I don't think we should punish everybody because certain people have an idea about training and management of dogs, as well as not understanding certain breeds and characteristics.
So let's break that down because there's a lot there.
That was a lot. Sorry.
Actually, where I want to start, it wasn't where I was going to go a second ago, was I don't think that chain, the logical chain that you just put together, ban e-collars, ban prong collars, ban slip leads, ban martingales, all dogs are on harnesses, power breeds on harnesses start creating havoc. Okay, well, why do people in 2050 need power breeds and all? Ban power breeds. I actually thought that's not very conspiracy, right? During COVID, shutting down a country for like eternity, costing people lives, small businesses going out of business. That was considered conspiracy. That's how people pushed you to the side. But most of that actually was proven pretty accurate now that we look back at it.
How interesting.
So e-collars, how did that get banned? And is it one of those things where, and I don't know how much you know about American culture. I've never been to Australia. I lived in Bali for 6 months. So I love Bali. A lot of Australians. I love Australian people. I love banter. I haven't lived in Europe, so I can't speak to that. Is it just a cultural divide where, okay, they banned e-collars in Australia, but America's like, we have our guns, we're free. You don't see it happening here. Can you take us through, because it didn't happen overnight. How did they even get to the point where they could ban e-collars? Because that seems crazy in of itself.
E-collars have always been banned in my career, so I've never used an e-collar on a dog. And I've had the opportunity to use an e-collar, and I'll just say this how it is. I haven't used an e-collar, not because I'm against the use of it, is that if I open Pandora's box and start training in a way that would maximize everything that I can do with me and my dog, now I'm compelled to go, well, I can fix this behavior with this technology that is amazing and clear and concise and effective and efficient. But now if I start using that and teaching that, now I'm like technically teaching animal abuse by the law.
What's the punishment?
I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it's something like it could be up to 6 months jail time, certain fines for animal abuse, loss of business. Like I won't be able to, be a dog trainer again, I don't think. So like that sucks. But if you go to Queensland, so one state above us, you're allowed to use an e-collar, but they just banned the prong collar maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. It seemed to be like a backdoor sort of political decision that, hey, I'll gain more points if I tell the population, look, I just banned prong collars. Everyone's like, yay, progression. And it's like, you don't even know what you're saying. And then if you go to Victoria, I believe you can use an e-collar signed off from a vet. Are you allowed to use prong collars there? I'm not sure. So it's different in every state. So if I go 1 kilometer on like a one step over the border into Queensland, an e-collar is completely fine to use, not abusive, because something happens in the air in Queensland that dogs don't feel abuse there. They come into New South Wales and all of a sudden they're going to turn to dust, right? So
but here you can use a prong collar. There now you can't use a prong collar.
Exactly.
So it's just like kind of like backdoored into a bill, like people don't vote on it, people don't get a say in it.
Didn't seem to be the case. It just happened to be that Monday you're not allowed to use a prong collar. And it's like, what? Like it just pulled it out of nowhere. There wasn't a vote on it.
Do you feel like polices it? I know it's a funny way to word that.
No, I don't think cops would care, but if someone was to report it to like the council and the ranger was to come, and then you have to prove it and all of that. But yeah, and the RSPCA probably have their process as well, which is a whole nother thing. Um, yeah, it's a difficult place, because if I went up to any random person going, "Hey, can you believe they want to ban this collar?" and I show them a prong collar or show them an electric collar, they're like, "Yeah, man, what's wrong with you, you crazy person?"
Well,
Like
and I
I get
guess
the visual of it.
I think a big part. I know Ivan Balabanov's a big like he is fighting from the states on all this, and he puts out a lot of content. I'm a bit naive to it. I'm like, not my chair, not my problem type of thing. Not in my. But that's also not the right way to look at it, right? It's over there. It could be over here. They have proposed bills in the states where they ban those things, but you're raising a dog, Panos. Like you're able to use just about any tool because your timing is perfect. You have experience. You understand dog behavior. Those tools aren't going to hurt you or other dog trainers. They're going to hurt the 50, 60-year-old lady who has a power breed who she can't control. She has no leverage over. She's not a natural handler of the dog. And now she's just like, that dog's either going to pull her down the street, she'll fall, she'll get injured, she'll let go of the leash, the dog will get in a dog fight, and then I'll have to give that dog up. So it's the common population that's going to get hurt much more than the dog trainers.
Yes, sir. I agree. And there's been heaps of times where I would be able to, if I was able to use an e-collar and use it in the correct way and teach the dog and condition it and show the person how to use it, we would be able to fix so many problems, so much quicker. Right. And not because we just get to punish them at high levels from far away, but we can use low levels. And look, I've done a lot of seminars that I go to, people are talking about e-collars. I just use that philosophy and just put into pressure in some other way. It's more clunky. I've got to put a leash on a dog and all the way over there, where if I was able to press a button, the dog hears a sound and feels a bit of vibration. Correct. And so I get the theory of it and stuff, but the only reason why I don't use it is the main reason is because I don't want to know that there's something better that I can use, but I'm not allowed to use it. I don't think that helps me. And also I've been able to train my dog. My dog has, full off leash access. I haven't been able to use it. So, and I'm preparing now for, look, maybe in the next couple of years, we'll be able to use prong collars. So we have to get really good at using slip leads now. And then also have to adjust the advice. Maybe it's like, well, look, the powers that be said that I'm not allowed to help you in the best way. I'll show you what you can do. But if you're 7 years old and you got a 45 kilo dog that's pulling you down the street and nothing's working except for just leave him in the backyard, then we have to have different conversations that you're going to have to start choosing your dogs more wiser.
You're going to have to start choosing the dogs more wisely, because what came to my mind for the e-collar was separation anxiety, right? So you leave the house. Some dogs, okay, they cry a little bit, they bark. Some dogs really go hurt themselves. Like they do dumb stuff in the house. How are you going to interrupt that behavior? You walk back in the house, the dog stops doing it, right? So
you gotta hide and set it up, and someone's here. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous process. With an e-collar, you leave the house, the dog starts chewing on the couch or eating something. You tap, tap, tap. The dog knows what that means. You fix that behavior. And who does that help? The dog who's hurting themselves. You put the dog out of its own misery.
So we need more management, and then we need, more tightly fitted kind of schedules and routines. And it's making it more difficult. So look, and not that I'm on the fence, but when it comes to like larger dogs, like things like that, we can, manage, like, separation related stuff. But when you have a big dog not coming when you call them, you can't put adequate leash pressure on. It's like, you're going to have to get a smaller dog. I know you've always had German Shepherds, but you can't have them anymore because, it'd be illegal criminal activity to teach a dog to come back to you and not to ignore you. So, it's kind of crazy to say out loud. And hopefully, culture kind of comes back from a left way of seeing things, maybe more to a middle. That'll be nice. Maybe that's just how culture works, and it goes left to right and left to right. But I think every time that happens, we lose liberties every single time, and we never get them back. And we have a lot of rules in Australia. I'm not sure what it's like in the States, but a lot of rules. It's getting overwhelming with how many rules that we have, so many laws. Like, who's walking around with the book of laws? So it can be hard to navigate. And it's not commonsensical anymore. There's no common sense. It's very like, oh, you got that collar on, like that's illegal and that's this and that. And while the dog's like happy, wagging its tail, fully under control, listening to, like, you're looking at the wrong thing. Look at the dog and look at the handler and watch the dynamic and watch how just look at body language. And if the dog was shaking, trembling, bleeding, sweating, freaking out, I know dogs can't sweat, but not looking good, and the dog's got the collar and the guy's yanking and helicoptering the dog around, it's like, yeah, obviously we're dealing with abuse here. Like, what the hell are you doing? So, you know, I can abuse a dog with anything with my bare hands. I don't have to use a collar to do that. So, you know, it's a frustrating conversation. We've been having this conversation for 14 years. It's like, who, like, the people that need to listen to this are probably not listening to it. The ones that when you change their mind will refuse to listen to this, and they've already got their premeditated comebacks already. And you know, it's frustrating because there is no legal body that goes, this is how we're going to do things. This is how we train a dog. Let me educate you like a driver's license. I fear for that because the wrong people may get in control of what is good or not. But it would be nice if there was some regulation. It would be nice if there was more open conversation. Everyone that disagrees has to get together and be like, let's come up with some middle ground. Like, we're all in this to help dogs, help owners, give them clarity and a good life. It's not like I just want to like abuse dogs. It's crazy. Like, why would someone even say that? Especially when we're advertising it to the world. Look what I'm doing. I'm training a dog. I love dogs. And they're like, you're being horrible. And it's like, you're missing the point. So, you know, it's frustrating, but it's also a representation and a manifestation of where our society is. You know, the Western world in particular is hijacked in so many levels that it's like the last thing people are worried about now is like a dog collar, whatever, man. Like,
let me ask you about your business.
Are
you kind of like, you know, you worked with horses? Are you tunnel vision? Like, Panos, I run my business. Business is good. I have clients. I have 3,000 dogs I've trained. And you just kind of focus on that? Or are you expanding and thinking of hiring other trainers to work under you? Do you do shadow programs? Do you collab with other trainers in the Sydney area? Do you travel and do seminars?
So, great questions. First of all, when I worked at the race course, I was a groundsman, so I just looked after the turf and the gardens and stuff. So I didn't handle any of the horses there. Actually, in fact, I don't even know what to do around a horse. Like,
but you know, horses. They have like blinders, right? Because they're not looking right or left. They have blinders. Yes, they focus forward.
Yeah. Look, it's hard, like, you know, in terms of expanding and scaling the business. I think for me, if I'm hiring anybody, you know, for this year, it'll be more about hiring for the jobs that I'm not that good at: admin, editing, take some video of me, you know, handling the business side of things while I can be out on the tools and helping people and their dogs. So I'm leaning more towards, like, you know, hiring for that reason. So that's the next projects. And seminars actually, in fact, has been something on my list. I have my whiteboard around here somewhere. So I want to start, you know, offering workshops and seminars, you know, for the people that are enthusiastic about dog training, and also other trainers, especially newer trainers that are getting into the space. I'd love to share my my wisdom with them. At the moment, obviously, I do focus on, you know, sharing my content, you know, through the podcast, but seminars and maybe more of an online community would be are my next steps. So that way there are a lot of people that are following and you know, consuming my content. It'll be nice to have a little bit more of an interactive way to share that, especially for other new trainers that are, or not just new trainers, but any trainers that are wanting to learn another perspective. But yeah, I'm focused on, I got goals for professional goals. I got my own personal goals. I got to be a good dad. I still have to be a good husband. I got to be a good friend. I got to look after myself. You know, I got to be good to my dogs and do everything. So it's one thing I was speaking with my friend about even just last night, that we can get so dopaminergic of like the next thing. And it's great drive, great ambition. But you know what? You're a bit of a junkie. Like, you got to chill the fuck out a little bit, be in the moment. Take your kid to the beach and run around and have some fun. And, you know, Sundays are a day off, so I can like stretch out and do a bit of exercise and do fun things with the family, you know, because I could crush all my goals this year, but then something else has to sacrifice. And I want to make sure that I have a solid relationship with my son, but then also a solid relationship with me and God and nature and, you know, just the things that are around us. So balancing the dopamine brain and balancing the serotonin brain, and being like, it's one thing that it was years ago that I contemplated this, but you know, and maybe this is like, relatively deep, but if I was going to be on my deathbed tomorrow, I want to make sure that I'm like, yeah, man, I gave life a good crack. It was awesome. Life's good. But then also, if you're a business owner, nothing's ever good enough and you need to keep growing. And how do you reconcile keep growing, keep moving while also going, I'm cool to be here and now. It's all right.
Yeah.
Today's a good day to die. So you got to balance that shit out a little bit. And that's on you to do that. And it can be tough because I identify as a dog trainer, but I'm technically a business owner, and you can't tackle business by being a dog trainer brain. You have to be the business guy, but also, when I had a guest on just the other day, and I was like, oh, yeah, episode 271. He's like, oh, what did you say? 271. It's like, nah, dude, if I start something, I'm consistent. It may take me a little bit of time to start a thing, but you know that if I've started it, I'm on. I'm invested. I'm fully in. So maybe that's why it takes me a little bit longer, maybe to embark on the new projects. When I'm working full days, I'm coming home at 7:00 at night. It can be pretty tough to have enough energy to make sure I fulfill all the other responsibilities while still on the business and doing things. Because again, another thing as well, people listening, we want to accumulate many things, but remember, everything that you accumulate, you got to manage that. You got to maintain it and grow for the next thing. So if you want 6 houses and 50 boats and all these cars, okay, you got to service them all. You got to pay for all of their insurances. You got to look after the houses, go around, make sure everything's intact. So accumulating more sometimes can just burn you out and freak you out. And depends on what you want in life as well. Like I do want more money and more things. I want more security, but also we have to sometimes look, and I'm not sure your living situation, but it's like I think we live like kings lived in the 1700s. We've got temperature control rooms. We've got food in my fridge. I've got food in my belly. We're safe, relatively safe. We've got.
I think Panos, has the Greek roots. I think he's got a little like Plato, Socrates, Aristotle in him. I think if you trace it, I think if we did your wisdom panel the way we do with the dogs, they're gonna take you back to the philosopher days a little bit. You love a little bit of philosophy, huh?
I do believe that my brain operates in that way, and I do. And to answer another one of your questions, I had a shadower yesterday, so I do offer shadow programs. So new trainers or trainers, like existing trainers, come follow me for a few days, and not just let me show you the dog training process, but let me show you how do you talk to a person, how do you connect with like all these different people we see every day. We're seeing dogs are the same. Like not the same, but dogs are dogs. But so many different people live different lives, different age brackets, different philosophies. So you need to like know who you're talking to, how to speak, how do you coach them and influence them and see where they're thinking so you can help them and change
different stages in their life.
Exactly.
Right? Like some people just got a dog because they were at a really low point in their life, and you come in here like, hey, your dog's got to do this, and they're like, some days I don't even want to get out of bed.
Yeah. Exactly.
So how do you for me, sometimes you have to be like, whoa, I'm not even training them in dogs today. They just might need a little encouragement in life.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to like find what similarities or how you can relate, find where there's a relatability, work from there. And there's a bit of psychology involved, of course, to motivate the person, and a lot of dog trainers need to work on their people skills. And a lot of dog trainers that are good at their people skills need to work on their dog skills. And those are the two main skills that you need. So having the client, the shadower with me between sessions, we're chatting and our conversations went quite deep in random different tangents and rabbit holes, but all of it's very connected. And also, to your point before, like, yes, I think deeply and I operate deeply. I also know that not many, like it's not normal, maybe whatever, to have that depth, even from something that seems so shallow. But I think that does give you good insight on, well, you got to think a little bit like that. If you're trying to cross species into the dog or cross relate into another person, you got to, I think, philosophy, psychology, and even more recently, neurology. Like, how do your neurons fire when your psychology goes crazy? Your psychology
on that topic, Panos, you said dopaminergic. Dopaminergic. So this is awesome. You said that. And you said junkie. So I did an episode with Nate Schomer. Mm-hmm. And Nate's like a technical guy. So he was like really going into technicalities. But I love that you said that, because what I said was these dogs that from basically puppyhood are taught behaviors with food, basic behaviors like, hey, go chill out. They become dopamine junkies. And if you rewind the tape and you listen to what Panos said, he's dopaminergic, always looking for the next thing. And you wonder why these reward-based dogs, that I'm sure you've had these, they've been 9 months, force-free, positive-only training. They come to you, and they're good dogs, but they're always looking for the next reward. They can't settle, right? They're always looking for the next thing. And I said, you don't need to change much. Just don't reward him. Just use the leash, and he gets up, say, I put him right back. Not everything in life needs a reward. That's the philosophy, right? Like, oh, right. Like, if my kid went on the school bus and he cried, maybe like some of our friends did, and didn't want to go to 6th grade, are you going to give him $100 to go to 6th grade? Or are you going to say, hey, you have to go, right? You have to go. I know it's scary. I know there's 7th graders that are bigger than you, 8th graders. I know it's intimidating, but you got to go. Heck, it's the same thing. So I love that you said dopaminergic. Another quote I really like that you had, so listen to your podcast. It was, too much excitement with no end turns into anxiousness. I really like that you said that, because I think what I found from you is you play with dogs, you have fun with dogs, but at the same time, there's like this on-off switch that I think you teach your clients and the dogs, but really the clients, that, hey, there's a time to play and there's a time to chill out. Is that accurate?
Yeah, definitely. And it's very important, something that, and we call these like windows of opportunity. So there's a time for chill, time for play with me, time for go out and do your own thing, and other time for work. And that's, I learned that from Jay Jack, and actually Jazz from Prime Canine. I had her on the show a couple weeks ago, and she was also mentioning that, you want to have windows of when are we in this state of mind and when are we in this state of mind. And, or even within the game, you go into different windows. Bring me the ball, we play, drop it, you're at work. Down, you're at work. Play, we're at play. We say finished, do your own thing. Go in the car, you're in chill. And if you can make, and every dog's going into a different window of opportunity, like naturally. But if you can be mindful of it and then put it on a cue and then know that I'm now going to, and it's hard to not be so technical and so gritty. Like it happens. There's the art to training. There's a science of training. You got to merge them together. You don't want to be too clinical with a notepad. Which window am I in now? Like, that's crazy, right? Who wants to live like that? And then also you don't want to be like, yes, it happens, but I don't really put mindful, because that works for you and your dog. But if you need to teach this, you need to break down the clinical nature of it and then work it in the session, or work it within the dogs and within your life, so that it becomes clear that we're doing this now and we're doing that. And yeah, excitement with no end does become anxiousness, because anticipation of what? And then when you're not getting that thing, sometimes you may feel like, but like, why isn't it happening now? And that's the wrong play. And so many dogs are in that state of mind. So many people are in that state of mind. And how do you switch that? And then further thinking about that, I try to like give the example, like, when I put my work clothes on, I'm at work, and when I have them off, I'm not at work. But that's not true, because when I sit on my couch at 10:30 at night, I'm doing emails, putting stories up, fixing a reel for the next day. Like, I'm not clear about when I'm working or not working. And that could be to my detriment of going, oh, like I'm always working. But then I choose Sunday not to work, and I don't do any of that stuff on a Sunday. So that's good. But Mondays are a day.
You've implemented windows into your own life.
I'm trying my best. Yes, exactly. Because then you burn out.
Yeah.
You're like
that's
always
really
thinking.
thoughtful. That's really thoughtful. What I got from that is dogs teach you self-awareness.
Yeah. The main reason why, and I can, to answer your original question, why did I get into dogs or into animals is, well, the dogs taught me so much about me, and the nature of dog training is you're teaching dogs. While I'm teaching dogs to do things, dogs are teaching me how to do things. I teach dogs to live in our society. Dogs teach us to live in the now. And it's symbiotic in that way. And that's life, that's nature, and in all ways, if you're not seeing what you need to learn to change or to maintain, then you're not aware of it. So it's hard to make it better.
And
but also,
on that note, what's cool, I think, is if you really get aligned with the world and kind of with yourself, and I know this is like heady, the dog you need the most in your next stage comes into your life. And I want to share with you a dog that's come into my life. Her like, for me, this is always if I would have got this dog a year and a half ago, I might have not known what to do. But her name is Jelly. She was out of the shelter, 12 months old, kind of like a Whippet Pity mix, maybe 30 pounds. Returned once for biting because she didn't let anyone put the collar on her. Okay. Didn't let anyone do her nails, and collar, she went nuts. Put her on Prozac for 3 months. So 9 months to 12 months, they put her on Prozac, right? And they wanted to put her in the behavior ward. A friend of mine who owns a gym adopts her. They tell her she can't come off the Prozac. It's rewiring her brain, okay? Okay, so like, what do you do with this dog, right? So she's on Prozac. Obviously, we get her off Prozac. Okay, she doesn't take any food. Okay, so you can't motivate her with food. She won't eat her meals. Okay, doesn't have any ball drive. Doesn't want to play with other dogs, right? So like, again, if I had this dog 1.5, 2 years ago, lost. Okay, yeah. But here, now I know. Now I'm better. Okay, I could teach her little bits of pressure. I could show her that these perceived things in life, right? Because she doesn't know how to handle pressure. She's like Bambi first learning how to walk. Everything's a new experience. So I say, Jelly, come, very light leash pressure, slip lead to me. As soon as she comes to me, we full sprint the other way, right? Okay. You know what I did today? She's off Prozac for like a week. I went all the way to the force-free side. I said, wait, I forget. I have these enrichment toys. They're still tucked away. I'm going to stuff it with Greek yogurt. I haven't used this in – when do you use Greek yogurt anymore? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I have these like little stability exercises that I've already taught her with leash pressure. But I give her the what are they called? Like the little stuffed toy, like a conch. That's what it's called. Yep. And she's going crazy for it. I'm like, this girl has never eaten food. Like, she barely touches food. And she's like going at it. I'm like, whoa, I love the force-free side. And now she's climbing on stuff. Today, for her first day ever, she did a full sprint. She was playing with another dog. It's a 2-week program. I started with teaching her how to relieve pressure. Relieve this little perceived stress in kind of a classroom setting. Jelly, come, pop, 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 pop. She comes, and we run. 2 weeks later, she starts taking food, and now she has her best day ever. That dog, the fearful, unsure, flighty, with no motivation, I think most people say it's a challenging dog. It came to me at the right time, and I think that there's this blessing of having the dogs we need that take us to the next level. Yeah, as a trainer, but I think as a person, they're magical.
Yeah. So most people would say in the dog training journey or training a dog, you learn patience, you learn some compassion, you learn how to be consistent, have responsibility, be disciplined, all these traits that you must embrace if you want to be really successful with changing a dog's behavior, but even learning what you need to do to fulfill a dog so that we don't have any of these issues. And to put labels on things kind of ruins us because we're like, oh, should I not do that because it's force-free? And it's like, nah, you just do it because it's another technique that works,
Right.
But more importantly, you leave that session going, oh, I don't know if that was, I don't know, I kind of dropped the ball on that one. And then it's not like, oh, well, you win some, you lose some. Let's go to the next one. You're like, well, what happened? Well, like, was I not listening? Was I not paying attention? Why did that dog nail me? Well, I screwed that one up, didn't I? So it can be a lot. It could be a lot, and maybe it leads to a lot of burnout where you're like, hey, why didn't that one work? It worked with the other dog. It didn't work in this case. And then the next time you come around, you're like, we're going to try this thing now. Or you reach out to the owners like a week later, how's everything going? Whatever, jump on the call. Hey, don't do that, what I said, because it's clearly not working. How about you try this instead? And they're like, yeah. So you got to have that introspection between sessions or whenever to be like, how's that going? Or sometimes you may feel like, I don't know if that went really well. And then you see them 2-3 weeks later and they're like, we're doing the things, it's working. I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. So it's hard to judge the scenario, but if you're not constantly trying to improve your technique or your understanding of the dog and what it needs in that moment, then how can you be? And there's so many trainers. Oh, this did my head in, but this is not a force-free type of other trainer, but I went to a client, big pointer, showing aggression to other dogs, redirected aggression on handler, a couple of issues. And they're talking like, oh, wow, this other trainer didn't even do anything with the dog, like didn't handle the dog at all. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, okay. And like, I didn't ask for names or anything. And then he's like, oh, and they also said, don't walk the dog. Cause if he reacts to other dogs, then don't walk him. And it's like, okay, well, no reactivity if you don't see a dog. Yes, true. Ridiculous. Don't say good boy, don't pat him, don't this, don't that. I'm like, is that beep from beep? And then they looked at each other and I'm like, yeah, I just knew, because man, this guy's been saying the same advice from, I've been seeing the leftovers of his dodgy work for 10 years. I'm hearing the exact same thing. Like, how did I know it was that guy from there? From you just giving me 3 things: don't walk the dog, don't say hi to him, don't pat him, and don't feed him treats or something. It's like, what? Like, how does that work?
Where's the training? That's not training. That's management.
It's hardly even management. Yeah, sure, exactly. It's ridiculous. And how, like, that guy has had no introspection. He's not going, I wonder why I'm not seeing these people again. Why isn't it working? Why aren't we getting the desired result? What is the goal anyway? What's the goal of the session? So, you can tell that guy.
How am I changing the dog's outlook on life?
No, it's not doing anything. It's not helping the people. It's giving them more, learn helplessness. Like, none of it's good. Now, it's interesting when, just like with anything, if you do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and obviously that's insanity. Or if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. So you got to change it up. And if something's working, then why change something that's working? So you don't have to change just because you're bored of 12 months of giving the same analogy, hey, if it's working, dude, use it. But it will morph and evolve over time. And you want to also, as trainers, watch your own videos, maybe not even to post them, but just to watch it and see how you've spoken to that person, how you brought up the example at the wrong time, the right time, when you moved, when the dog got you or he didn't get you, or, did you reward the right time? Even yesterday, one of the feedbacks, we saw a couple of dogs, and the shadow was saying, oh yeah, like what I got from, like, so yesterday's session, the dog was a bit anxious of me, a little cavoodle thing, and didn't really want to take the food from me, take it from the owners, not from me. So, well, this is annoying. I'd rather the dog just take the food and we can do the things. But it happens to be that the dog's scared, so it's going to take me an extra 20 minutes out of the normal routine just for the dog to be neutral and cool around me. We're trying to show them luring. They didn't lure the dog. The dog didn't know how to lure. As soon as they tried to lure, the dog just sat and stared at them. So instead of them trying to lure the dog 5 steps to the right-hand side, I get the treat. The dog started taking some food from me. The dog leaned and took half a step, mark and reward. Lean, half a step, mark and reward. Within a couple of minutes, the dog's luring like normal. And he says, and I love how when I saw that, you were rewarding the smallest little step towards the end goal. So, rewarding by successive approximations. You take one little step, boom, I like that. Hey, yeah, boom, yeah, I like that. And why that stood out is because we're normally seeing the rambunctious, overconfident, intense, aggressive dog. And now I've got this dog that won't even take food from me. And then he's like, and he shifted into that version of Panos, where if that was like 2011, 21-year-old Panos, like, come on, let's go. We got things to do. People are watching, people are waiting, and you're messing around. Let's go. So I learned to be more compassionate, to embrace more feminine qualities. And if I can merge feminine and masculine together, that's how you become a good leader, a complete human, someone who could see it all. I'm not talking about male and female, but masculine and feminine. It's like right side, left side of the brain, compassion, but guidance, being disciplined, being firm, but also being understanding. And, hey, he's a good boy. Don't do that. So being able to switch between that without being emotional. I'm not angry and I'm not excited. I'm influencing you. I'm manipulating and conditioning you. And I want to be on your side. Hey, man, I'm cool. I got you. Some dogs won't like you straight away. Some dogs probably won't like you for a while. So, you have to, and experience really teaches you that. Every time I get bitten by a dog, unless a dog comes flying out of nowhere or while I'm walking down the street and just blatantly attacks me, every time I've been bitten in a training session, that's on me. I got bitten. When the owner say sorry, I'm like, nah, dude, I came to your house for the aggressive dog. I'm the one who's in this territory. It happens, But why did that happen? Yeah, I shouldn't have moved into his space in the way that I did. The way that I put pressure on it was too much. I didn't realize he, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you he doesn't like it when you, do X. It's like, oh, thanks. But how, and to what I was saying before in terms of like burnout from trainers' perspective, you get bit, you're sore, you're a bit scarred. You're overwhelmed, you're working till 12 o'clock at night. You got a lot of demands and you're walking and talking and explaining and teaching all day. And everyone thinks that you play with dogs in the park.
Yeah, that's the best part. They're like, you have the best job.
You know what? One thing as well that is it's hard to, you know, as a business owner, we're talking about evolve and grow and build up and become more than what you are. It's hard to change what you're doing when you enjoy what you're doing, you know? Like, why would I change? Like, this is pretty cool. So, but it can be exhausting and challenging, and not every, like a lot of, from what I've noticed from a lot of trainers that have gone into the industry but haven't lasted a long time, one of the major contributors to that is I got into dogs because I'm introverted, and the dog kind of gives me the safe space, and I love working with dogs. I'm passionate about dog training, etc. And then they find out they've got to be extremely extroverted as a dog trainer, because you're going to people's houses, your energy all day. Like some of their shadowers, like it will be like 12:30 and we're going to the next session, like session 3 or whatever. And they're like, man, I'm exhausted, bro. And I'm like, you haven't done anything. You've just been watching. We're not doing this till 6:30 tonight. Like we're on, man. Well, let's go. So you got to have this, you got to draw that energy from somewhere. And that's passion.
Do you do mostly privates, or do you do board and train? What's kind of, it sounds like you do mostly private and group training.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I go to people's houses mainly for my one-on-one sessions, and then group classes for reactivity and obedience training. Those group classes, people have to have done one-on-one sessions first, so I can vet the dog, make sure everyone's on the same page, using the right tools and equipment and techniques. And I do have a puppy class as well, so no one has to do a one-on-one for that. You can just come to puppy classes. Board and train, no, I don't. We used to do dog minding before my son was born, but we haven't had a random dog stay in the house.
Dog
for a
what?
while. Dog minding, dog boarding, like, so just looking after dogs when people were on holidays.
Why did you stop? Why don't you offer board and trains out of curiosity?
First of all, I don't really have, like, I got space in my yard, but now I have to put a random dog in it. And number one. Number two is I'm on the tools. I'm out in sessions all day. I'm not really home to work the dog. And also I've got a 6-year-old child, so I don't want random dogs in my yard for his safety and security. But also, like, I could, but then it would change my whole dynamic of how I work, you know? And I do work closely with certain other board and train people. So, hey, look, we've gotten to a point where we got into everything's happy days, whatever. Some dogs, I'm like, look, you'd benefit. The dog would benefit because, and usually I would want to board and train not so much for the obedience side of things and loose leash walking and all that.
Correct.
It'd be mainly for, like, your dog needs work with other people and dogs. And if we can give the dog a good experience for 3 or 4 weeks,
yeah,
and then dog come back to you with his own experiences around dogs and different. Now we're just going to maintain the things that you've learned because we all train very similarly. Then that works well. They get the business because they're good at that. I can do the one-on-one and help with the continuation of it. A lot of these guys are out west, like out far away from the city, where I can get to their house where it's hard for them to go. So we can kind of, like, we've been collaborating together and helping in that regard.
And out of interest, have you considered shifting your model from I'm out all day, private lessons, group training, I'm going to do board and trains, and I'm sure you could afford a facility with more land, or is it just like you love the private lessons and you like being on the road?
Sydney's property market is fucking retarded, bro. Like, it is bad. So I could get a facility, but then it'll change my whole model. And I don't know. I really, to be honest, it could be a good way to shift and maybe have more time in my day and maybe get different type of results. But I really dig helping people. Actually, in fact, I actually got into dog training not because of dogs per se, but as we were saying before, how do dogs teach us to be better?
Sure.
You know, and I thrive off that human interaction as well as the dog interaction, you know. So I think that's where my skill set is the strongest, because we had dogs to be traditional helpers for us, and now that doesn't exist. So we asked the question, being philosophical, well, what the fuck are we doing with the dog then if we don't need it to kill the rats, herd the sheep, pull the sleds? Like, what are we doing here? And it's like, well, we want the companionship and the lifestyle that comes with the dog. So then it's really, we have dogs for us and our emotional, psychological, spiritual state, rather than for our survival and for us being functional in society. So there's the reason why we still have dogs, not for utility, but for the emotional and the mental support. So then when the dog's there prompting all these issues, and it's like, well, you got to be a little bit more assertive and a bit more structured. You, sir, need to be a little bit more fun loving. Your dog needs to, like, your dog respects you, but I don't know if he likes you that much. that's why he doesn't listen to you. And so it's really about working the people, working the dogs, and I love that part of it. And
So this is
yeah,
not advice by any means, but let's play this little game out.
let's go.
First off, what's your sport of choice? You're obviously a fit guy. Like, what's your sport of choice? What do you love to do for physical exercise?
I've just actually finally gotten back to jiu-jitsu after a couple of years break.
Okay.
Martial arts.
Awesome. So here's awesome. Well, the jiu-jitsu dog training community. No wonder you love J Jack. I'm actually gonna have Blake Rodriguez. He's just like 30 minutes north of me, but he's also a jiu-jitsu guy. So
Oh, nice.
Because I was like, I see a coach in Panos, like a genuine coach. What do they call the coach at jiu-jitsu?
Oh, right. No, we just call him. I don't think like there's no one coach there. But like senseis. Like, so I did another martial art.
Okay.
Just
Sensei Panos, amazing. So maybe like 2 years ago, I was feeling a little burnout, so I was doing board and trains, and maybe a year ago, actually. Wow, it feels like a while ago. I was, board and trains and private lessons. Maybe I had 1 or 2 dogs here, but I was on the road, going client to client to client. And after 3 or 4, I felt drained. I felt so tired. I was like, why isn't there a school for dogs? A school where they get a chance to have recess, play with their peers with a thoughtful way, not a doggy daycare, but a place where they can play with their peers. Gym class, where they could get stronger physically. Math, science, where they can learn some things, but then go home and integrate that back into their lives. Now, will it fix every issue? No, but I think it could fix 80, 90, maybe 95. This is a thesis, right? A hypothesis. So I was like, I'm shifting my entire business model to a dog school. Clients will drop their dogs off at 8 a.m., pick their dogs up at 4 p.m. I won't charge the prices that a board and train will because, I'm watching the dogs overnight, but I'll charge 70% of that. And I believe they'll learn obedience. They'll get the socialization they need. I'll be able to fix most reactivity because I actually don't think reactivity is real. I'll be able to build them up and give them some confidence. I have those 8 hours to build a relationship with them. I can make them stronger walking through obstacle courses, and they'll get a lot of benefits. So I shifted to the dog school, and it was life-changing. My stress went down. I'm able to work with more dogs than I could then. The owners drop their dogs off every morning, pick them up in the evening. Hey, stay. Bring your kids after you pick them up from school. Let's party. Let's do a session together, but let's make it fun. I have the yard. Let me get your dog out. Let's play. Let's teach your kid how to play. I see a possibility. I'm not telling you what to do by any means, where Panos, the sensei, could be running a dog school out of Sydney, and he doesn't have to be on the road, and his 6-year-old son's hanging out with him, and people bring their dogs, pick them up.
Man, I'd love that. Look at and if and I've definitely thought of like a model like that, and it would be amazing. Maybe I'm just an old dog in my old ways, and I'm just like doing what works and just kind of going through the motions. I personally don't like. I'm tired, but I kind of get energy from working. Like I don't know, like it's a different. Like I wouldn't want to change it only because I need to change what I do. Because I kind of like I'm getting the steps in, I'm out and about, I'm with people, so I like that. One thing I do miss is having a team. That'd be nice to have a consistent person to like talk about life about, rather than talking with random people all the time and never.
And if you have 1 hour, 2 hours max to build a relationship with the dog.
That's true. Look, it's certainly not a bad idea. I probably wouldn't want to run that from my backyard though. One thing I found, and I guess the dogs aren't staying overnight, but I would definitely be keen if someone out there in Sydney wants to open up a facility and help us out. Because as I was saying before, I would like if I could get that somewhere like local to me, I'd probably need like $10 million. But it's definitely something that I have thought about, and also it's just happened to be the natural progression of where I'm at is that I am speaking to a lot more dog trainers, and I think the next thing that I would naturally be leveraging into over the next couple of years will be teaching trainers how to make training better, and that way they're, it is still a passion of mine, but it's it's hard as well when I see the results that I get, and it's like, all right, cool. And I think collaborating with people doing similar things would help as well. But you've planted a seed. We'll see how we go.
Share with me what are some pain points the other dog trainers are having. Like what is a recurring theme that they're coming up with?
A lot of people want to see how to work with reactivity or barking, lunging, frustration behaviors, and a lot of people are shy or scared to deal with aggression because they don't want to ruin it or mess it up. And, and they're scared of getting bit, the liability of it. Where ironically with me, I started with aggressive dogs. People call me, I can help you. I'll rock up to the house and be relatively successful. So I was, and I find that if I have a specialty, I would specialize more in dealing with those problem behaviors. Another thing as well, which is interesting, where I had advice of you should just niche into the thing that you're really good at, which is hard to be good at, reactivity, aggression. But then I thought, I don't want to see aggressive dogs every single session, every single day. That would definitely not make me feel good about dogs. It's nice to see a cute puppy and prevent these issues from the beginning, so that we don't have the real solution to aggression and fear-based behaviors is from puppyhood. Of course, you got to deal with the dog that's already scared and acting out, and is a mature dog. So, but if I didn't have the gap of seeing a cute dog working on some basics, then I would probably feel the fatigue. So that's another angle of it as well, is that I want to try to 14 years now, I feel old saying that, but I don't want to ruin something that's working. Also, maybe from a perspective of, well, I got not many overheads at the moment, which is helpful. And I'm open to having a facility type of thing where I could do so much more with what I'm doing at the moment, but there's probably just a bit of a financial block to that, but
you see a lot of aggressive dogs in Sydney. I mean, how much aggression is even out there? I feel like true aggression is few and far between.
Yeah, look, a lot of people think they have an aggressive dog and they don't. But I would see dogs that would bite maybe once or twice a week at least. But I see a lot of unruly, shitty behavior that looks aggression, looks like aggression. But true aggression, you see it, but it's not as rampant as every dog I'm seeing is aggressive. That's crazy. But even and look, in aggression, towards who? There are a lot of dogs that I see that I will say they're reactive, probably would be aggressive. We just don't let them act it out. And it doesn't take much to change them. But they still would tag a dog. But aggression towards me is a lot less. There's a lot less human aggressive dogs.
Well, the aggression towards other dogs in many cases is just built up frustration from what I've seen.
Frustration and fear, right? I see a lot of dogs that are scared and they're reacting, but they wouldn't bite unless they were really pushed.
Right.
But some of those dogs get pushed a little bit hard, especially if you're cafes, dog run up, dog's tied up, dog runs up, can't run away, and then tags a dog. Would you call that aggression? Yeah, technically, but the dog's not seeking out to be aggressive. You know what I mean? So yeah, very, very, very rare. And there are some dogs that I see that are straight out assholes. They bite because they don't like you, they are insecure, and they're happy to bite you because they love it. And that hurts. For sure.
What breeds do you see the most?
A bit of a mixed bag, but I see a lot of American Staffies, Shepherds, Kelpies, or or Border Collies, Cavoodles, heaps of Cavoodles.
What is a Cavoodle?
A Cavalier cross poodle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You guys call them a Cavoodle?
Yeah. What do you call them?
Cavapoo.
Yeah. So a lot of
that's hilarious.
but we see heaps of I see a good mix of a lot of dogs, but yeah, a lot of if I say the most typical would probably at the moment, because it kind of goes through waves too, which is weird, but Shepherds, working dogs, and Staffies I'm probably seeing the most of.
You've done 271 episodes of your show. And
yes,
of course, I mean, you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you're a disciplined guy, 14 years in the game. I start something, when I started, I do it, and I do it right, and I do it well. And if you guys don't subscribe to Panos' show, please do. Can you let them know where it can find it? Because I don't think it's under your name. I think it's under NP, right?
So the podcast is called Life with Your Dog.
Life with your dog.
My Instagram is NP Dog Training, or on Facebook would be Nooches Pooches. And same on YouTube, Nooches Pooches, and on my website npdogtraining.com, and everything's there.
Yep.
All the links.
What is something that, okay, when you started, and I want it both from a dog training side, but also from like a philosophical side. When you started episode 1, episode 271, what's a few things or something that you've learned, you've evolved, you've changed from that first session when you're like, you know what, it's time. I'm going to share my message with the world. I wrote Nooches Pooches, but now I want you guys to hear my voice, which is, he's got a great voice. I told you guys that in the beginning. I think now that we're an hour, 20 minutes in, I'm proven right.
Thank you, baby.
Take us through that journey.
I started the podcast because at the time I had in 1 year, I had 4 people ask me to be on their podcast, and I did it. And I was like, oh, that was actually pretty cool and fun. And I love to have a conversation and about things. And I thought, and podcasts were becoming really popular at that time, obviously. So I thought, well, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Why don't I have things to say? I've got the first 20 episodes in mind. I've written them down. So let's get it together. So me and my co-host Luke, he had his own podcast with his mum at the time, and that was one of the podcasts I was on. And I'm like, hey, can I rent your space and use your gear, because I don't have any of the stuff and I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, how about you don't rent anything from me, because he wasn't going to continue doing the thing with his mum. Other things came up. He's like, how about a help by co-hosting and help produce it, and we can chat together, and you can learn about dogs along the way. So the dynamic at the beginning was he's a complete novice and asking questions, and then it evolved to be that he ended up doing a dog training course and learning a lot about it. So now we're the journey of Luke has been cool. He doesn't do dog training currently. He's still co-host. When he's a new dad now and has a lot of work on. So the progression of the dynamic between us has changed, and you can see the growth, and that's pretty cool. And at first it was, let me give you the foundations, how to walking a dog, and how do you teach basic commands, and what are the 3 most important commands, and then it became, because after 271 you're like, my God, how many topics can we talk about? It's always important to revise over old topics, especially though 4 years ago. It's a nice new perspective. It's the fundamentals are the same, but here's a couple of add-ons. I don't do that anymore. I don't use this product. I use this product instead. And having guests on is probably, for me personally, the best, because I love to speak to other people, get their perspective of training. But we don't just get guests for training. We get guests for heaps of different other topics. Just recently we had Dr. Will, he's a vet. He started his own dog food company. So talking about nutrition and the three potential factors affecting dogs' health. So the podcast is about the life with your dog, not just this is dog training. Of course, it's a dog training focus, but I want to share with the world and document. These are the conversations that I'm having. It's adding to my understanding and continuing the learning. Also, I want the listener to go on a journey of learning about these things so they can implement it. Everything that I teach, I don't want to say the word numb down, but I make it so that the layman can understand exactly what we're talking about, rather than being very technical with our words. So anyone can listen to an episode and be like, wow, that was really helpful. Now I can crate train my dog, toilet train, a couple of puppy training episodes, or so to answer your question, so many things have evolved. First of all, my speaking to a microphone, I'm not nervous as I used to be, speaking to someone I've never met you before, be like, oh my God, when I speak to him, don't sound like an idiot. It's no, man, it's pretty neutral, pretty comfortable, so it's helped my talking to a microphone skills. It's helped my interviewing skills. I have to think about what I'm interested in and ask it in a way that makes sense. And then also it's given me a great opportunity to, stay strong and network within, not just trainers in Australia, but trainers all around the world. I think it's a very important thing, as we were mentioning. We are in a jaded industry, and if we don't stick together and help each other out and prop each other up and collaborate and help, then I just think it's a waste of opportunity. We're here to help dogs. We're here to help people. We're here to help each other. And dog training is usually a very lonesome task. It's not not necessarily every dog trainer has a big team behind them. It's usually 1 or 2 people or something. So the more that we get together and go to seminars and network and then talk over the air, we can help each other out by, hey, I had that question. I never even thought to even ask it. I'm so happy that you asked that. Or I'll ask a trainer something and they're like, oh, okay, so I don't like it when trainers do X. I'm like, shit, I just talked about that last week on the show. And then I'm like, why? And then I can show the world or show people, whoever's listening, that I'm open to changing. I'm like, interesting. Well, the reason why I'd give that advice is because of this. Like, yeah, maybe that, but because of this. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to try that out a little bit. So we can help each other out and share more of each other online so that the people that actually matter, the everyday dog owners, can benefit from these sort of conversations. And it probably hopefully it helps the culture of dog training and, what can come in the future, Let's get better. First of all, let's get better at dog training. Let me tell you, my dog training podcast, my podcast has all the dog training secrets. I give it all away for free. The book you got to pay for, and it shows you the implementation. You can pay for me to come and help you, and I can show you how to implement it even further. But I've given everything away. Everything that I know is all out there. You can do as you want and please with it. But you can see my natural progression over time if you go back and listen to it now. But then also, I'm happy to keep an open mind as well, so we can get better. And the only way we can get better is by setting the benchmark. If I can give you everything, or give my podcast listeners and other trainers, because obviously other trainers listen to, like, hey, this is the standard, and then make that the standard. Yeah, maybe I hear someone, like I put an episode out and then I'll hear a trainer on their social media saying something. I'm like, oh, I kind of said that. I'm not upset. I've given it away. But now I have to be better for myself so that I can continue to help and teach, but also I want to be better at what I do. So I don't gatekeep what I got. I'll just give it away, and then we can all hold each other accountable and better and see it from different perspectives.
You mentioned you have a bookshelf right there, and there's a lot of books you haven't read. What's a book that you have read that you really really enjoy?
So I do a lot of audio books. I'm not like my wife I looked at her, I went out to walk the dogs. I come back, I'm like, how many pages of that book did you read? I'm like, I can't. Ironically, I've written a book, but my reading skills sucks. I could probably be better at that. Maybe I'm a little bit mild.
Audio books count as books.
They count as books. I love it. Which ones? Ironically, I don't really listen to any dog training books, but I do like some of them that I like that I'm looking at here is The Values Factor by John DeMartini. I listened to that. I read that book ages ago. That was really cool.
The Values Factor?
The Values Factor. That was cool. The Road Less Traveled. That's a classic. What have I got? What else? I've been listening to a little bit of Alex Hormozy audiobooks for business.
I could see that for pure business. Give us two last questions, but give us the clip notes. You just had Will the vet on. He talked about food for dogs, something I'm passionate about. I actually think it's more common sense than we even need a long-form discussion on. But what did he say about what we should feed our dogs?
Kibble
highly processed kibble, science diet.
Kibble is bad for a dog.
You don't say.
And heaps of issues for teeth and health and allergies and skin. What else have I got here? I've got our notes right in front of me. I asked him for like common issues that kibble diet, thoughts on raw feeding. So the food that he's developed, he was saying how everything's ethically sourced or it's all family run, like fisheries or farms or wherever, and he's sourcing like goat, venison, fish, things that are not like chicken, beef, and pork, like not like the basic proteins, but we're talking about more like wild caught sort of food. And to scale that as well was difficult, but he recommends if the only reason why you should be feeding kibble is for a budget perspective. If you don't have enough money to be able to be feeding your dog completely biologically appropriate food, then kibble is there just as a filler. But if you're feeding pure kibble, then take some of that kibble out and then add something extra for their gut flora and things like that. What else? And the episode was 3 potential factors affecting dogs' health. So food and diet, early desexing or desexing in general, and then over vaccination were the 3 things that he's saying are screwing dogs up for cancers and other diseases. And being a vet himself and seeing all these issues, and then he wanted to be more of a part of the solution. Yeah. So, and I love his Instagram.
Like if you actually think about those, like those are pretty common sense. Like the toughest. I have one last question. I'm gonna let you go. So we've been going to a nursing home with our dogs, just like once every 2 weeks, just bringing well-tempered, well-behaved dogs, kind of walk around, meet some people. They had to give up their dogs to move in there, and the rules there were relatively lax. But we got featured on the local news. So Children's Cancer Hospital wanted us to come. But now the rules are strict. And the amount of vaccines that my adult dogs who've already been vaccinated as puppies had to get in the last 12 months, it was like 6 vaccines. But I wanted to go and do that, right? Like it's a good cause, kids with cancer. I have a great golden retriever. His name's Amigo. I want to do that. Like it comes from the heart. But I marinated on this for 3 months. If I should get him all of these vaccines to do something that would, be perceived. Obviously, it's selfish. I feel good, but I think it would make them feel good. And Migo is this bright red golden retriever, perfect personality for it. I decided to do it, but like man. I so didn't want to vaccinate him. I still haven't. It's actually this Saturday where I'm getting him this like slew of vaccines, and then I have to get him heartworm. And
well, have you titer tested him?
They won't accept that, dude, because they just it's like a huge hospital,
Mm-hmm.
Which
is ironic.
How would you go and do a titer test out of curiosity?
I think they just do a blood test. It's a little bit more expensive than like doing the general vaccines, and we have heaps of different vaccines in Australia than America.
Right.
But the titer test just tests their immunity towards all the things that you want to vaccinate against, and if you've got antibodies to support that you're immune against those pathogens and diseases, then that's exactly what a vaccine would do.
Do the vets do that?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna titer test them, submit it, and then they're gonna reject it, and then I'll get them the vaccines. But I love
give it a go, because you'd be like, hey, look, he's got antibodies. What are we talking about? He is immune. Like so, and I get it. So much red tape, bureaucracy, ideology, blah blah blah, all the rest of it. It's kind of crazy, but the facts are there. Hey man, like first of all, he hasn't got the things that you're concerned about, and he's got antibodies to support that, which means he cannot ever contract it. So. It seems like a no-brainer, but
you would think it's a no-brainer. But we've been at the nursing home where like the dogs you see them well behaved. It was on the news, but then we had to go and get it's called AKC or CGC test. I don't know. Do you guys have that?
No,
dude. It's bizarre. It's like the easiest test. Like anyone who could walk on a leash, put him in a down, call him over, walk past the dog, dude. Like. And leave food on the ground. Like he could walk by food. Like any half decent dog should be able to do this, but I had to go and get certified, and you have to get like the sign off to go and do that. Last question. What are your dogs? What kind of breeds are they?
I have an Australian Coolie. His name's Chili. He's 5 years old.
Okay.
He's my demo dog, the one that comes out and helps me do our job. And I have a Maltese Pomeranian. She's 10 years old, and she's cute. And then I have my grandma's dog as well. She's an old Pomeranian, like 15 years old or something. So my grandma passed away recently. So the dog stays here in retirement village until her days are done.
My condolences.
Thank you, bro.
Pomeranians are cool.
They are cool. Yeah.
They are very cool. Teddy, if you're listening, they're very cool dogs, man. I like Pomeranians. They're hilarious.
My Maltese Pom, she's definitely a mix of both. You can tell like her mannerisms. And we love her a lot. She's really cute. Actually, every year old she gets, we just love her even more. She's
what is
really cool.
What is a Coolie?
Australian Coolie. It looks very similar to a Kelpie, but typically they have merle, like a tricolor merle color through their coat, and they got like blue or different eyes. But my dog literally looks like a Kelpie. It's hilarious. It was like, oh, cool Kelpie. I'm like, he's a Coolie. Like, oh, you can
kind of like a herding farm dog, like really
shape dog,
handler focused.
Yeah. Very handler focused, very high drive, and I'll show you. I'll quickly pull up a photo for you.
Cool.
Brown. And then we just lost Spades. He was my demo dog. He was 14 years old. He passed away last year.
So are you thinking of getting a puppy? Probably not anytime soon, but
no, I think we're pretty cool. Everything's all right at home at the moment. It would be nice. I'd love a German Shepherd. My wife really wants a Golden Retriever. And, we've got a list of dogs that we would love to have, but 3 dogs is always, in my opinion, like a little bit too much. Not that it's bad or anything. It's just not the same. So when Flora, the old girl, goes, it'll be nice to have 2 dogs for a while, because we did have 3. We had Spades, Chili, and Nookie. And then when Spades passed, it was like a bit more chill. It's hard with Flora because she's a bit, senile and does weird shit in the house. So she comes inside, but she spends most of the time outside. And it'd be nice, but it's just, when any free time I have at the moment, I want to, spend that time with my child and that. So at the moment, I don't have a desire for a new dog, but my dog's 5. It's gonna be 5 years going to fly by, and I'm gonna have to need a new dog. Yeah. So I need to sort that out.
I would have thought you would have. I would have thought you would have a Staffy.
Oh, Staffy! You know what? I do prefer a pointy ear, pointy nose dog. I like their vibe. Working type of dogs. I just like let's do stuff. I'm not against Staffies. I think they're cool, but just a different mindset.
Do you guys cut ears off in a crop?
No.
Crop.
Yeah, no cropping or docking.
You're the man. Guys, I knew this would be great. Go subscribe again one more time. Just tell people where they can find you, please.
NP Dog Training on Instagram. There's underscores between the words there. Nooch's Pooches on Facebook and YouTube, or npdogtraining.com. You can find my website where there'll be links to my book, The Nooch's Pooches Method, and my podcast, Life with Your Dog.
Awesome. And podcast is on YouTube or audio?
Audio only.
Awesome. Peace. You're the man, Panos.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun.